You've just entered the Extra Zone Arcade. You already know it's time for another Mario 40th Anniversary Superspective episode. Only this time we're covering 2 games again. Been a while since we last did that, huh? Last time, we talked about Super Mario 3D Land. The verdict was that it was a fine enough experience, but ultimately doesn't stand out among the plumber's other 3D outings. Sticking with the 3DS lineage, today's episode is half about New Super Mario Bros. 2. The other half will be focused on its Wii U follow-up released only several months later. Yep, these games came out super close together, so I figured with that fact, as well as the games being as similar as they are, it should be a double feature. Alright, enough wasting time. Let's get into how New Super Mario Bros. 2 saw the light of day. A new 2D Mario entry on the upcoming 3DS had already been in discussion since 2010, only for it to be announced by the late Satoru Iwata that the game was in development, right off the back of 3D Land's release. The game, of course, would be developed by Nintendo EAD, but this time Nintendo SPD joined in. The intent was to teach them and other members of various development teams the development of Super Mario games. Also, in a strange departure from their usual development pipeline, the stages were designed before the mechanics were. I sure hope that isn't a sign of things to come. Takashi Tezuka and Hiroyuki Kimura, the game's producers, wanted the focus to be on collecting coins. To the point the game was originally considered to be named New Super Mario Bros. Gold. Low-key, I think I like that name better. Sounds premium. Though I guess they preferred that for Wario since they'd give his series the gold stamp 6 years later. Back on topic, a multiplayer mode was added, though somewhat begrudgingly, and a new mode called Coin Rush was included. This would also be the first mainline Mario game to receive post-launch downloadable content in the form of level packs for Coin Rush. I'm not going to talk about those here in the interest of keeping things focused and concise, but I do want to make a video on it sometime, so stay tuned for that. Oh, and same goes for New Super Luigi U. Cool? Cool. So, the game released in the summer of 2012. July 28th in Japan, August 17th in Europe. Wow, this game released on my birthday? Too bad I didn't have a 3DS back then. I would have geeked getting a brand new Mario game on release day for my birthday as a kid. Anyway, it released on August 18th in Australia and August 19th in the US. Interesting that they got it last out of the major release regions. That usually doesn't happen. The game's reception was... Hold on, it's not in the 90s on Metacritic? Mixed or average user score? Well, guys, it seems the Super Mario franchise fell off. Pack it up, everyone. We got a sub 80 critic score. It's never been more over. Okay, jokes aside, I was kinda surprised to see this, considering the series have been consistently in the high 80s to 90s range, even for games I don't particularly care for. And spoilers, I guess, I like this game quite a bit. Though there is a reason for this, which I'll get into when we reach the bottom of this segment. So, what's my story with New Super Mario Bros. 2? Well, much like its DS prequel, my first proper exposure to it was through my Mariothon series a couple years ago. Like I said in the last part, I didn't have a 3DS until around 2019, so I'm still playing catch up on its very extensive library. I guess New Super 2 wasn't that high on the priority list. So here's what I came away with after playing it for the first time.
So anyway, that was New Super Mario Bros. 2, so what are my thoughts? I definitely get why this game tends to be rated close to the bottom of the list when it comes to the New Super Mario Bros. Games. But honestly, I had a lot of fun playing it, so like, it's not a crazy game, it's not a remarkable game, but it's actually pretty fun. I would say so far, I know this might be a controversial take, I think DS is probably my least favorite so far of the New Super Mario Bros. Games. Then it would be this one, and then Wii is the best.
So yeah, while I didn't think it was amazing, I ended up liking it a lot more than DS. But why did I feel that way? And do I still feel that way now? The story begins with the Mario Bros visiting Peach at her castle. We catch them just as they're chopping it up, and they wave each other off before taking flight with their equipped raccoon tails. Once they get back, they get ambushed by the Koopalings, who are back again and have Peach already in their clutches. They set out for Bowser's castle in World 6, and the brothers give chase. World after world, the Koopalings are defeated until we reach the big man himself, who grows even bigger in an attempt to plunge those pesky plumbers. It, of course, doesn't go too well for him. The princess is saved, and we return to the status quo. Hey, so remember when I used this game as an example of a Mario plot at its most simple? Well, that point still stands. The only other cutscene in this game aside from the opening and ending is the one at the end of World 5 that shows her getting transported to Bowser. Well, look, it's only a handheld game, surely New Super U will have a much more rich narrative. But how's that gameplay though? Well, this game being a follow-up to New Super Mario Bros. Wii handles pretty similarly. The only difference in the game feel is that it's slightly, and I mean slightly floatier. Other than that, you're getting the same great controls as Wii, with just as much flow state potential. Though the levels themselves feel like they don't accommodate for that potential as much, which we'll get into shortly. In case you somehow forgot how a 2D Mario game works, you can run, dash, crouch and jump. Revolutionary. Otherwise, all the same moves return from Wii. The triple jump, ground pound and wall jump. Though you might have noticed during the plot summary that I said Bowser's castle is in World 6. As in, World 6 is the final world of the main game. Yeah, this game is really freaking short, to the point that I started the game during the same live stream I finished 3D Land, then started NSMBU in the same stream I finished this one. It never got its own full stream to itself. And that'll be the experience if you just play through it normally, but this time, I'm going for 100% as with all the other games in this series. That meant playing through World Mushroom and World Flower, which you would normally skip, kinda like World 5 and 7 in DS. Unlike that game, this game does a much better job of actually presenting it as additional content. Namely the fact that they aren't numbered worlds, so it doesn't feel like you're skipping over important content. DS operates as if you should have played those levels, so the already sudden difficulty spike when you get to World 8 is made much more problematic if you just play normally. Not great design. None of that is the case here though, which is appreciated. But I do think they swung a little bit too far in the opposite direction, where it feels like there's next to no difficulty curve here. The game is pretty damn easy throughout. This is partly because of the game's central gimmick, coins. So we all know coins grants an extra life, which is still a thing in this game. What do you think that means in a game where you can get hundreds of coins per level? Let's just say we run into the 3D Land problem again, where lives are meaningless and the game's design is so forgiving to accommodate all that money that death is barely even a threat. Also, like 3D Land, all the real challenge is in the special world, but unlike that game, it isn't half the experience, only a ninth of it. This truly is baby's first Mario game. I mean, it is bar none the most comfortable experience you'll have out of the mainline games. Even going for 100%. I kinda hinted at this earlier, but this is the result of the levels being designed before the coin gimmick was thought up. The already easier levels mixed with this free life farming simulator makes this game stupid easy. This is probably the most common criticism of the game, and while I do agree it's maybe a little too simple, I don't think the game being too easy or too hard is necessarily a bad thing. It's all about the design, and this is an area where the game mostly succeeds. While you can absolutely tell the levels were made first, they still feature that ingenious 2D platforming design EAD has mastered. This is helped by the simple yet effective power-up selection. The Super Mushroom, Fire Flower and Star are here, and at this point that goes without saying, of course they are. The Super Leaf returns and this time actually does what it's supposed to do and turn Mario into Raccoon Mario. See, that's why this game is better than 3D Land. Speaking of 3D Land, the Invincibility Leaf is back from that game, but this time grants the White Raccoon form. You know, to stay consistent. Works the same here as it did there, making you invincible and granting the power of flight and gliding like the regular Super Leaf does. You have to build up your P meter to run fast and take off, just like in Super Mario Bros. 3. Tinkle meter, my beloved. The Mega Mushroom and Mini Mushroom are both back from DS, and I feel are used to much greater effect here. Sorry, I guess I'm in my pun era now. For one thing, the Mega Mushroom actually gets to be used in more than 3 levels, and the Mini Mushroom is no longer just a glorified secret exit tool. Don't get me wrong, they're still pretty situational, and it's not like you can take these into any level and make it work, but it feels like they were designed much more deliberately this time. The only new power-up in this game is the Gold Flower, which coats Mario in the most malleable metal. Shooting things with fireballs will get you coins, and the amount you get increases if you combo enemies. This thing is the most powerful ability since the Hammer Suit, since it can kill things like boos and thwomps. And just listen to that impact noise. It sounds like a damn shotgun blast, and there's just something so satisfying about hearing that while raking in a bunch of money. Okay, that makes me sound like a violent criminal, keeping that in the final cut. Mario can sometimes get a golden block affixed to his dome if he bashes one enough, and this spouts coins as you keep moving until it disappears. I like that this incentivizes fast and fluid movement as you build dough. There are also these golden rings that turn enemies gold, who award more coins when they're defeated. Koopas are the best in this state since you can kick their shells which spill out coins for you to nab up. A lot of ways to get rich here, and one of my favourite levels to do that was 5-3. You're on this big old hill atop the clouds where you can just send gold shells flying down and let the bread roll in. Not only is it a ton of fun collecting coins here, but collecting the returning star coins was also a decent challenge that required some accurate pipe launches. World Flower A was probably my least favourite. It's a super boring auto-scroller on ice where easy to defeat enemies drop on board. There's just not a whole lot going on here that sparks any intrigue. Getting back to those star coins though, they were once again a lot of fun to collect and added a good deal to the experience. These are some of the most creative ones I've seen in the series, even if they aren't necessarily the hardest out there. I had to think outside the box for a good number of these, and I can at least appreciate that aspect. I think it's safe to say they got better and better with each entry. What didn't get better is the Star World, which once again you have to unlock in its entirety once all star coins have been collected. These levels are not the kind of challenge I'm looking for or would expect from a Mario post-game, in the sense that there is no challenge. The only level that really gave me any trouble was the final stage, World Star Castle. Grabbing the moon coins here was tough since you're being constantly pursued by the Koopalings in the clown car. It has this ability to petrify Mario, so you gotta stay hidden when their eyes flash or you're probably boned. This one particular coin was very troublesome, probably one of the hardest ones to grab in the whole series. It's all about good timing and precise movements. One mistake and you're either getting dropped by these grinders or turned to stone. If you think that's the end of your troubles, you'd be mistaken. This is the castle level, so of course there's a fight waiting at the end for us. This time we're up against Dry Bowser, who breathes blue fire and throws bones to try and stop you from seeing that 5-star save file. Just like Bowser when cereal halves milk, he grows mega size and you gotta climb up, hit the switch and put a stop to him. All the Koopalings are back as bosses, and their fights are pretty formulaic. Stomp them 3 times, avoiding their wand and shell attacks, and whatever other stuff they throw at you. Sometimes literally. But there's one other boss. An enemy from a time long since past. A foe so distant in memory you could swear that you only heard of them in legend. That's right, I'm talking about Reznor. So, after 20 years, Reznor is back and you get to fight them the same way as in Super Mario World. Get under the platforms and knock them off until only Mario is left standing in that room. Though there is a little more variation in the fight themselves this time, since they're a boss for every tower. Lastly, I just want to go over Coin Rush a little. It's essentially a mode where you have to speedrun some of the game's levels, stacking coins as you do. I feel like it's a fun spin on the regular gameplay, but it's nothing more than a neat distraction. I didn't spend too much time with it, so I'll probably cover it more in depth in its own video. So, I've been pretty positive on this game overall, and for good reason. It's a well-designed, well-structured and neatly crafted 2D Mario experience that, although is a little too far on the easy side, you should check out. There is one pretty big flaw that can't be ignored, and that's the fatigue. As you know if you've watched the last episode, Mario during this era was getting a little too comfortable recycling ideas from the past and sticking to this one very sanitized and easily digestible style. It was a little overly safe, and so it felt like the creativity of the games were being stifled. This game is another unfortunate victim of that, not really having much to claim as its own and certainly not bringing anything new to the table. At the very least, the coin collecting gimmick is something that does stand out about the game, even if it isn't the most genius idea they've put out. At the end of the day, bland aesthetics and a mostly reused soundtrack, while disappointing, aren't so bad because the design of the game makes up for those shortcomings. Ideally, we'd want all of those aspects to be equally as amazing, but we take what we can get. Forget about getting 1 million coins though. Feels like a huge grind just for some shinies on the title screen, so I borrowed a save file for this footage. Regardless, the game sold around 13.39 million copies, and even if it wasn't a critical darling like most other games in the series, it has its fans. If nothing else, I would say I'm one of them. My biggest hot take being that I like this game more than the original on DS. Quite a bit more, in fact. This game just felt so much more tightly designed to me, even if it was less unique in some aspects. But hey, remember how I said this game released on my birthday? Automatic 10 out of 10, best Mario game. Okay guys, we just released New Super Mario Bros. 2, and by God it's doing numbers. Wii U launches today, what have we got ready for it? What? New Super Mario Bros. U? But won't the people get bored of us giving them a 4th game in this already formulaic and repetitive sub-series only 9 weeks after the last one and marketing it as the Wii U's hot new release for the holiday? Well yes, they did. But why? Let's go back to the beginning. Yeah, so this is New Super Mario Bros. Me, an E3 2011 tech demo made to show off the Wii U's off-TV play feature. There are a handful of playable levels that would all make their way into New Super Mario Bros. U, so it's safe to say the game was built off of this. It would get its full reveal at the following E3 in 2012, looking pretty much identical to the final game, save for Baby Yoshi's being found in blocks in the levels. Our 2 main producers are back, and this time the idea was to take advantage of the Wii U's unique gamepad, giving the player the ability to place their own temporary blocks in the levels. This would kinda inadvertently give birth to another 2D Mario release on Wii U, but that's a story for another time. And by that I mean we're not covering it here because I don't consider it a mainline game despite what Nintendo says. Look, the publisher can be wrong sometimes too. The idea of an interconnected map like Super Mario World was implemented early in development, which already wins some points with me. So, the game released on November 18th, 2012 in the US, November 30th in Europe and Australia, and December 8th in Japan, marking the first time a mainline Mario game has actually been a launch title since '64. The game was generally more warmly received than the last one, but still falls short of the love that the first 2 games got. But what do I think? Just gonna quickly clarify that I'm playing the deluxe port for Switch this time, but all my previous playthroughs have been on the Wii U dating all the way back to the first time I played it. I've been over this in some of the previous episodes, but I got my Wii U for my birthday back in 2014, and a handful of Wii games along with it. So for a little while, the only actual Wii U game I had was Mario Kart 8, which I got via the bundle. Around a month later, I got New Super Mario Bros. U and Nintendo Land with the rest of my leftover birthday money. I got a lot that year, so I had enough to get both second hand. I damn near played the entire game that night, if not the entire thing. Around 2 months later, I tried playing Luigi U since I got the version that had both games, but I didn't get far. I ended up going back and playing more of U just to screw around in it, not really working towards anything in particular. You know, it would be nice to actually play games like that again, but I got content to make. I would pick the game back up every now and then, probably around once a year until around 2018. Ironically, the year that they announced the deluxe port. Then I don't remember playing it at all until 2020 when I did my personal Mario marathon. I thought the game was just as great as when I last played it, even playing it again basically right after Wii. Then, I played through it again for a Mario marathon, but this time, it was a stream, as I'm sure you're all familiar with at this point. This was the final takeaway.
And yeah, you know, I said it before, but this is the best out of the new Super Mario Bros. Games, in my opinion. But yeah, so again, in terms of like ranking and stuff, I'd say that this is the best. Then New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and then New Super Mario Bros. 2, and then New Super Mario Bros. DS. I still think on the whole that this game is easier than Wii, but in terms of like level design and again, especially some of the standout levels like the Van Gogh one, is what kind of gives this game the advantage to me. Plus, you know, there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with like the baby Yoshis and whatnot, you know, taking them into different levels and, you know, seeing what they can do there. The squirrel suit is a pretty cool new power-up, and yeah, they did add some pretty nice features in here. A lot of secret exits, and yeah, it's in that way it's kind of a lot like Super Mario World. Like, you know, this is probably the closest we have to like a new Super Mario World.
Pretty high praise comparing it to Super Mario World, but do I stand on that now? The game starts out with Peach getting captured by Bowser and the Koopalings, blah blah blah, you've heard this 1,000 times by now. What's that? I need to go into details. You're also not asking me a single one of these questions either? Alright, fine. Mario, Luigi, Peach and a couple of Toads, one of which is Toadette in Deluxe, are enjoying a meal together. All of a sudden, a giant mechanical Koopa hand comes down and slams the heroes without remorse. They're promptly scooped up and tossed out like yesterday's trash, with their fall being somewhat broken by an acorn tree. These acorns get spread across the land, and as the gang touches the ground, they're noticed by some baby Yoshi. So, they set out to make it back to Peach's castle, with a little assistance from their little buddies. One thing I really appreciate here is that as you go through the game, Peach's castle gets more and more of a remodeling from Bowser. Really makes you feel the urgency of the situation. And this is doubly effective when you can see it at all times through the world map. Making their way through the various food name locations, they fight off the Koopalings, Bowser Jr. and the rest of the King's army until they infiltrate the invaded Mushroom Castle. The princess is locked up in a tower, and the father-son troublemaking duo are in Mario's path. Like always, they go down and the princess along with her castle are now free from Bowser's renovation plans. Again, I do like how the story itself is presented and progresses as the game goes on. Having it be more of a full circle kind of journey also feels satisfying, but hey, it's a mainline Mario plot at the end of the day. The gameplay here is exactly what you'd expect out of the new series. In fact, the controls, moves and physics are all one-to-one with the Wii game. But unlike New Super Mario Bros. 2, it feels like the levels are once again built wider and more free-flowing. Perfect for the game feel here. I guess we can just get right into the new additions, like the new featured power-up, the Super Acorn. This grants Mario and the guys the flying squirrel form, allowing you to glide and cling onto walls. You also essentially get a double jump when you start the glide. I gotta say, this is one of my favourite flight power-ups in the series, and there's a lot of competition in that field. If you have the right positioning, you can cover a ton of distance, which can lead to some super satisfying skips. It also has an OP variant, the P-Corn. Similar to Mario 3's P-Wing, it gives infinite flight, or infinite jumps in this case. But then isn't jumping infinitely just flying? Whatever. So yeah, the rest of the power-ups consist of the classics, Super Mushroom, Fire Flower and Star, and the rest return from Wii, the Mini Mushroom, Ice Flower, Propeller Mushroom and Penguin Suit. They're all just as fun and well utilised as they were then, if not more in some cases. Though you don't actually get to use the Penguin or Propeller Suits until you get to the Superstar Road, this game's unlockable challenge world. Though it's not a power-up, I wanted to talk a bit about Boost Mode. It's that new feature that uses the Wii U gamepad I talked about a little while back. Honestly, I really like the idea of this thing, but more often than not, it devolves into everyone getting slimed by the gamepad player, unintentionally or otherwise. Still, it's a concept I'd like to see revisited somehow. Maybe it could be integrated with the Switch 2's mouse? Now, how about those Yoshis? The grown ones still do what they could do in Wii. That is, eating enemies, dropping power-ups, flutter jumping, and not being able to come with you after you finish a level. Baby Yoshis don't have that weakness, and they honestly might just be better in every way. They could all eat enemies on contact, so it's kinda like having a little hungry shield when you're carrying them, and each one has its own unique abilities. The Balloon Baby Yoshi can fill up with air Kirby style, allowing you to float up in a handful of bursts. Goes without saying, but having one of these guys makes platforming a complete non-issue. Bubble Baby Yoshi is just really bloated. That's why he's called that. Oh, and he can burp up bubbles that trap enemies and can be used as a one-time bouncy platform. Kinda like a certain power-up that will show up in the most recent 2D Mario. Glowing Baby Yoshi kinda sucks. They only show up in a couple levels to help light the way with the shake of a controller. Doesn't really offer much platforming wise. Honestly, it's kinda baffling how they did what I asked for in having Yoshis you can take from level to level, but then didn't do that for the actual Yoshis. Still, they're both features that really enrich the gameplay here whenever applicable. This game has an incredibly strong stage selection to its name. Pretty consistent winners from start to finish, with the only ones falling short of that being just kind of alright. My favourite stage has to be Painted Swampland, also the Jungle 4. Pretty much anyone would give you that answer though, since it's the most unique level to come out of the new series. It's this Van Gogh Starry Night styled level that blends Poison Forest platforming with the kind of tricks and traps you'd expect out of a ghost house. There are even a bunch of boos around, and one of the only required secret exits. We'll get to more of those soon. This level always stood out so much to me, even as a kid. That big creepy Bowser painting in the background towards the end definitely left an impression. Spinning Star Sky was another personal favourite. I'm not usually a fan of winter themed levels. The aesthetic and especially ice physics never really did anything for me. This level thankfully doesn't have slippery surfaces and actually looks pretty damn nice. The big glowing stars just always popped out to me, and the creative ways they'll have you platforming on these keeps it a cool but engaging ride. Terrible snow puns aside, this game does have a particular stage I'm not too keen on. Hammer Swing Caverns unfortunately does have ice physics, so it already loses points there, but man, the star coins are a pain in the ass here. You'd better make sure you have the Super Acorn equipped here, because a couple of these are infinitely easier with one, if not impossible without. The last coin in this stage is possibly the hardest one to snag in the entire game. Either the rotation of this hammer platform would throw me off, the paratrooper would somehow get the better of me, or some other third annoying thing would prevent me from getting this coin for almost 20 minutes. Even outside that, the level itself isn't all that much fun to play. Not necessarily bad or even poorly designed, just not particularly fun. While we're on the topic of star coins and superstar road levels, the hunt for the coins is at its most fun here. Yeah, I think this game absolutely nailed star coin hunting. We was close, definitely had the right idea, but this game takes it to a whole nother level. Not only are they well hidden and challenging to reach in all the right ways, but finding the solution to grab one is at its most satisfying. Even the scaling feels good here. The early game ones feel simple and easy to grab, but as you get through the game, it does get noticeably harder, but never in a jarring way. That said, you might get ones occasionally that are hidden in a very unsuspecting wall, so you might just have to bump around like a dumbass to find some of these without a guide. It can be done though, but provides a great challenge at the same time. That's that perfect balance we're looking for when it comes to collectibles in Mario. Like always, collecting them all in each world unlocks a corresponding Superstar Road level, with a final unlockable 9th level. Kinda like in Wii, the last level barely serves as a challenge, more just a victory lap than anything. And of course, a means to the end of obtaining a 5-star save file. Beating the main game will net you one, collecting all the star coins awards another, completing every level bestows another, and catching Nabbit counts towards one? Oh god, I guess I should talk about him, huh? So, this purple bandana wearing little freak is a new character introduced in this game, whose sole purpose for existing is to rob these toads of their items. Arsehole. So, in each world, you can chase him down for a reward of a rare item. I never realized until this playthrough that you actually had to do these chases. So imagine my surprise when I did everything the game had to offer only to not see those 5 stars. Come to find out I needed to nab the nabber to fully 100% this thing. Weird. Anyway, the last requirement is to hit up the secret exits. Straight up, these are the best secret exits since World. In a lot of the other games, they felt kinda tacked on. Especially 3D Land, I feel like I didn't give it enough shit for this. Why the hell are there only 2 of them in the game and they're required for 100%? They're more like warp zones in Mario 1 than anything, since all they do is send you to a later world. You don't get any extra levels for it. Right, New Super Mario Bros. U. Yeah, this is how you do it right. You get some super unique stages by finding these, and oftentimes, the way you go about that is super clever. The Grinding Stone Tower in Rock Candy Mines was a cool one, where you basically have to play the level in hard mode as Mini Mario. Get to a certain point and there's a small pipe you can enter that leads to the exit, and one of the star coins. It's basically 2 for the price of 1 cool secret. I love that. The Rose Gallery here is basically the same as NSMB2, just swap out Reznor for Boom Boom. Immediately, this is a downgrade. Reznor Renegades rise up. At the very least, Boom Boom is probably at his most versatile here, thanks to some magic from Kamek. He has a variety of spinning attacks, on the ground and in the air, and will even get super huge in the Snake Block Tower fight. Speaking of Kamek, you actually get a rare boss fight against him, where he'll teleport around and shoot out magic blasts. These blasts usually hit these blocks, which contain enemies and hazards to avoid if freed. This is probably the most interesting fight to come out of the new series outside of DS, which for what it's worth, definitely had the most unique lineup. You know, considering every other game just uses the Koopalings. Once again, these fights are pretty unremarkable. Like, They're fine, it just doesn't really inspire anything in me to talk about them. The final fight against Bowser is pretty awesome though. Just like in the DS original, he fights alongside Junior, but this time, use his son's weapon against him. Jumping on the huge Koopa Tyrant or otherwise trying to damage him at all is useless, so you gotta fly up in the Junior Clown Car and bring down the pain. This is a super tense fight, making you feel claustrophobic with the very little amount of space that isn't a giant turtle man trying to fry or stomp you to death. The jumping spinning shell attack never fails to get me on my nerves. Keeping a cool head is key, and if you do that, it won't be long before the big meanie goes down once again. So, New Super Mario Bros. U. This game is pretty damn fantastic if you ask me, and I know some of that is probably biased talking, since it was the first New Super Mario Bros. Game I played. Still, the excellence in design can't be understated here. It's truly up there with the 2D Mario greats such as 3, World and Wonder, with some of the most creatively designed and uniquely challenging levels the series has to offer. And yet, people often overlook or dismiss this game simply because it was the latest in a line of 4 way too similar games. It didn't help that it was a Wii U launch title. You know, the kind of thing that should really come out and let you know the new console isn't screwing around. What most people saw was just an HD New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and honestly, I get the frustration in that respect. But as a kid, that didn't matter to me. And it sure as hell doesn't matter to me 12 years after the fact, so this is just where I stand on it. I feel like the bad rap only continued when Deluxe came out, and yeah, at that point they were definitely milking it, but it's also a fine enough port. Definitely not full price in 2019 fine, but it's Nintendo, what else were you expecting? I think I'd recommend playing the original Wii U version though, after experiencing both. Boost mode is pretty damn fun and worth playing around with. The weird crown mushroom thing Deluxe added for Toadette was not a good trade-off. That thing absolutely ruins the item pool in multiplayer, like if the Toadette player accidentally grabs your item, you're now screwed. Plus there was that one other side effect that it had, and I feel for all our sanity it'd be best to not touch that topic with a 10-foot pole. The game sold 5.82 million copies on Wii U, and a whopping 18.25 million units on Switch. For perspective, stay with me here, the gap between copies of this game sold on Switch and actual Wii U console sold is basically the same amount as the amount of copies the game sold on Wii U. Yes, that confused the crap out of me to write too. This game would be the last original mainline 2D Mario for over a decade, and even though it wasn't the crowd favorite of the new series, it sure as hell was the best. Not a bad way to go out.
Join the coin rush. You can turn Mario Gold and grab more coins than ever in New Super Mario Bros. 2, only on Nintendo 3DS. Rated E for everyone.
So, that wraps up our New Super Mario Bros. Double feature. What did you think of this episode, and which of these 2 games do you prefer? Let me know which one you're shooting for down in the comments, but don't forget to hit that subscribe button on the way down there. I hear it gives you this cool hidden power-up that makes you super intelligent and attractive. Head on over to Extra Zone Arcade on Twitch or Extra Zone Live on YouTube if you want to see what tomfoolery I get up to when I'm not here, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Man, I'm good.